Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Remembering Podcast, episode 186. It's good to be here with you. And today I'm here with Doctors Brian and Chelsea Rae Lumb. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to read your bio for everyone, and then we are going to jump into what is destined to be a juicy conversation. Dr. Chelsea Rae and Dr. Brian Thomas Lumb have guided thousands of clients to not only heal, but to become whole by realizing who they are beyond trauma and bringing their gifts to the world. Chelsea Rae helps you magnetize miracles by accessing the brilliance living in your bones. Her body has healed cancer, autoimmune disease, debilitating chronic fatigue, and more using their methodologies. Brian is a consummate consultant to the soul. He provided care for Tony Robbins for nearly a decade. He has supported sex expert Jaya at her top-tier retreats and programs, along with other industry leaders who chose him to usher them and their clients through challenges and initiations that no one else can. Brian has been a lifelong innovator with the brain of an engineer and the heart of a musician. Together, Brian and Chelsea Rae give entrepreneurs, healers, and creatives tools to embody their genius, create the life of their dreams, and actually enjoy it. And you can find them and their work at geniusfrequency.com. All right. So a few years ago, I signed up for your email list. So we're all in Asheville, North Carolina, and I signed up for your email list. And you were talking about something that I was like, I want to understand this better, but there was something coming through the tone, like the undertone or the energy or the code that you all were expressing, that I was like, I need this. I need what these people have, what they understand, and not in like a consumer-based way, not like I need to get that, but like they've figured something out and they're holding something. And so I really wanted to engage with Genius Frequency after that. So welcome, Brian and Chelsea Rae. It's so good to have you here. And I'm really just looking forward to more people knowing about you and the work that you do and the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
How would you describe what it is that you're doing? Because I know that you had a past in network chiropractic, and then you have also developed something that is your own, that like this code that you're bringing through. If people have never met you before, how would you tell them what you do?
What we're really doing is we're helping people who are ready to come fully alive and express their genius and then do what they came here to do on Earth. And the way we do that is that Brian and I have accidentally, to be very honest, accidentally co-created a methodology over a period of it had a cook time of like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And you have a history before that of being a teacher of network care. You were one of the top 3 teachers of a work called network care. And I was a practitioner. That's how we met. And we started working together here in Asheville.
Yeah.
And
it was the perfect spiritual collision of all the things that at that point in time in my life, I desired. And so I feel like in many ways called forth, but what was underneath that was really what my soul was longing for. So it was kind of a mixture of like what my soul desired. And then there was a lot of layers of like distorted personality that, I thought I wanted these things. So I thought that I really wanted to grow my practice. And I thought that bringing on another practitioner would be the way towards that. And I had easy access because I was a teacher and I was probably the most connected network practitioner to all the students. I actually led a group that I met Chelsea Rae through when she was a student. It was basically like all the student leaders at the different colleges. And I took this organization from like, there were 3 colleges that had network and grew it to like 9 and grew it from just the United States to international. So I had like access to the best of the best. And so when I was looking for, okay, who do I want to bring in? I knew I wanted a feminine energy in the practice. And I knew I wanted someone who kind of reminded me of me at a certain point in time in my development that was just like, I will do anything to become amazing. And I already come with kind of the certain codes that amazing emerges from.
Like natural skill set.
And there were just also these like perfect qualities of like, she grew up in the Midwest and she like had this really like,
I work like a German farmer.
She works like a German farmer. And that seemed to, that's, that checks a box or two, right?
It's not a bad
like,
thing.
And I mean, my people come from Kansas. My dad was he grew up in the Dust Bowl, Kansas as an only child. And so like there was this resonance and we just got along. And so it started out as this brilliant co-working thing. And it was also in part fueled by my son Maxwell arriving. So basically Maxwell was born at the same time that Chelsea Rae arrived, like within weeks of each other. So I really see like from a retrospective kind of spiritual vantage point, the way that I see it is like, I am a translator of information and Chelsea Rae is like a holder, like kind of the crystal container of that. And I feel like Maxwell has a role in that as well. And so that was like the perfect recipe of souls that then allowed my life, which I knew it then was on this kind of like I was taking care of Tony Robbins. I was top of my, professional field. And I was like I created the practice that I had always wanted. It was busy. It was starting to get waitlisted. We were having these monthly talks that were filling up and all of that came falling apart. And part of that was by choice. Part of that was me starting to recognize that there was a certain alignment that I was tuning into and I was misaligned with what was becoming my future's integrity starting to show up to me now, which at the time I was like, I feel like a very integrous person. And then all of a sudden I started seeing all these ways in which who I was becoming and who I was, there was a lack of integrity.
Well, there's a type of integrity of like you follow through on your word.
Yeah.
And that's what most people think of as integrity. Like you do what you say you'll do. And the person you are over here is the person you are over there in another room, when no one's looking. And then there's this other type of integrity that I identified at this time in your life, of soul integrity, that your desires, you are living them and you are making choices according to your genius and why your soul came to be here. And when you have soul integrity, you can go through really hard things and like you're okay. And you can do extraordinary things because there is a sort of fueling that's coming from like fulfillment. I'm having chills when I talk about this. There's a fueling that comes from fulfillment that makes it like you can really do things that you didn't think you could do. Yeah. Anyway,
it's like the achievement path, like the thing that we think we're supposed to do. And it looks really freaking good, what you're doing.
On paper,
it's really
it looks amazing.
Yeah. And then so I love that you use the word accidentally, like you accidentally brought her in not knowing, who Chelsea Rae was going to become for you. Yeah. And so you bring her into the practice. I have chills as I'm talking about that. And then, like your soul knew, but your human didn't know yet.
Yes.
So much of this.
So true. and thank God. I mean, if my human knew what was about to happen, I would have like thrown the brakes, and spin the car around and drove as fast as I could in the opposite direction.
We would have been so scared because we wanted a successful business and to just be great at what we were doing and like help a ton of people. Like that's what we wanted. And it turns out like what we ended up doing would have been terrifying for that version of us. And I'm so glad we did it. Yeah. But that version of me didn't have the courage to do any of what we're doing now. Yeah.
Okay.
So Brian, a little bit, the rest of the story is Brian left teaching that work and then he became available. He started getting downloads in the middle of the night that are like, do this with the body, and breaking rules of
and
network.
do it with yourself first. So I
And
was
so he
the
would have
very
me
first
do it with
person,
him.
and I would go to her in the morning and say like, hey, I know we're not supposed to do this. I know I've taught don't do this from stage, and I'm asking you to do this thing.
Yeah. And I'd be like, well, okay.
Yeah.
And so we did it. And then he started to get messages from his ancestors. He started to like be really connected and get this information of what does the soul integrity look like? It looks like doing some scary stuff. And
like new stuff, like things that are not written down in somebody else's book.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. And, a couple of years down the road, we accidentally fell in love on top of that. Wasn't a part of the plan.
Right.
Didn't know that was supposed to happen. And then years after
was
that,
an opposite of the like, oh, this seems good on paper. Like all of it seemed bad on paper. Like there was every reason to not do on paper from a social, cultural, like we were all of the things that, is probably not a good idea for business and everything else. Yeah.
This is
because there are these rules, like because there are these like external structures, these rules in the world and society that we have had so far, and then you all were like, "Whoa! If I'm going to follow my path, I need to break some rules."
Totally.
We need to break some rules.
Yeah.
Right.
So years down the road, we end up with a work that we're like, "Oh wow, this is distinct. This is its own thing." Brian named it Genius Frequency. And that's what it does. And that's what our codes put together do is we pull out like the truth of a person and from the body. Like we don't have to know it. But what this work does is it helps a person's authenticity unwind out of their system. And then they just start walking around expressing it. And you don't have to know. And that's the brilliant thing is it's body led and our mind can take a backseat, which is we think the role that the mind is meant to have.
Yeah. So letting the body lead. Okay. So just to share with the listeners. So for some framework. So we have, you've created Genius Embodied, and the technique is this genius frequency. So when you do your technique, the genius of the person, the unique soul frequency of the person, we might say, naturally begins to emerge. And then a few years ago, like those emails that I was feeling, you created a method where people can actually like put their hands on themselves and bring this information forward. So people in Asheville can come visit you at your sanctuary, at your healing space. And what I really want people to know for this podcast is you've created this digital product that teaches people to access this with their own hands, their own breath, their own body.
Yes.
Yeah. And it actually works, which is amazing. And the limitation we are facing is like, we can only physically work with so many people. And more than that, there was this relationship of dependence. And I was like, no, guys, if you know what we know, like you can do this too. You can do this with yourself. And so Brian was, with all of his experience, we were like, okay, we need to make this work for people working on themselves and help people learn to talk with their body and ask their body so they can tell what their body wants specifically. So it's not a one size fits all thing. It's like you actually can learn to ask your body what it needs and where it needs it, and then how to give it what it needs. And it's phenomenal.
It was very simple and something that was really, it was important to me. And I wasn't consciously aware that it was important to me. And because I've had so many, I have been granted an entire line of teachers that are phenomenal. So I was able to be a student, and I was a really great student with a lot of great teachers. And, from teachers we get, there's lots of great things that we learn from teachers, and we cherish those, we take them in, we ideally embody them, and then we create our own version of that. And then there's also the reflections of things, they're human. And so they have these distortional patterns that they're here to express. And then ideally we're going and growing as we move from teacher to student to teacher to student. And there's an evolution of consciousness there. And so one of the things that I didn't really know that I wanted to dismantle and kind of realize that, oh, this is part of my soul's role is to keep the teacher students there and break down the kind of like guru, like what has been in terms of like who you see as a leader and what they represent out here, and then how they are behind the scenes is like this different thing. There's been this rolling gap of difference of how people are, internal, external, and kind of on the stage and off the stage. And the only way to really do that is to shift the leadership focus from the guru to people finding their own connection, like just direct line. They have to mainline source, God, spirit, whatever your word for that is, creator. That became an important kind of front and center piece for us. And that's what also led this work to become front and center. So we are teaching facilitators to support people. And then next year we will be teaching people to do the spinal application. So it's like the full breadth of what we do with Genius Frequency, the embodiment side with Genius Embodied, and the spinal application side with, the complete package of Genius Frequency. We will be teaching that. And what's really front and center for us is that people can learn how to do this with their own hands, their own body, and never be facilitated and get so far with it. Yeah. Now, at a certain point, there is a realization of like, I need help, because that's also part of the magic. But the dynamic changes. It's not like I need help from someone because I'm so broken. It's like, I could use some assistance with my blind spots. And that's a different frame. And that's really where I see the evolution of human consciousness is going.
Yeah. That self-sovereignty piece, like that source connection, self-sovereignty. Yes, we are on the same page. I'm talking about that on this podcast all the time. And we need the teachers. Like I was a career teacher. I'm such the archetype of a teacher as one of my main archetypes. It's like, we download the things that we download so we can share. And unraveling that dependency, like, within the last 6 months, the more you align with source, the more that what is not true, what is not self sort of naturally unravels, the more you of yourself you embody. And that was an unraveling within the last half a year. I can't remember exactly what, when, or why, but it was like this, oh no, don't need me. Like I realized that, maybe there were some like people still putting what I thought on a pedestal or something like that. And so we really are, like we need to restructure this in, our culture, that there's sovereignty, there's unity. Like we want everyone to be in their sovereign frequency and in their genius. And we need one another, and we need belonging and teachers and learning from one another and connection and all of those things. But the days of giving away our power are over. They are. We really advocate for that.
And that's a real nice untangling of that, Sarah, because it's like we're living in this time where, because there's been truth that has this layer of distortion on it, it's like we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Teachers are vital to our culture, to our civilization, to the support system of learning and growing and expanding, but it's been twisted. And so we have to kind of untwist that and get the horse where the horse needs to be and the cart where the cart needs to be. And something that was shown to me, when the name was coming through in terms of Genius Frequency, was this beautiful kind of like breaking down. I love words, and I tend to like take them apart and put them together and rearrange them. But it was this what was shown was this recognition of like GEN, Genesis or generation. It means like the birth of, like that is kind of the meaning, the essence of that part of the word. And then there's the I and the us. And so it's like the birth or regeneration of the individual and the collective. And that's the genius. And so we look at it in that way. And then we also draw from the indigenous. So we've had a teacher, still have a teacher. He's just not in physical form anymore. But Malidoma Patrice Somé from Dagra in West Africa, he talks about genius, and in their culture, it's the through line to spirit. It is your connection with source. And so it's really kind of the amalgamation of the breaking apart of the English version of it with some fun twists around the I and the S, alongside of the Dagra definition that's how we see genius. It's like this rebirthing of the individual and the collective. And we have to do that as individuals first and foremost through our source. Then we can come together as a collective in this new way, because everyone is sovereign. They have their own tap. And then we're all just here to play and explore. And then we can trust each other in that way, because it's like, hey, we don't have to agree. We don't have to share the same viewpoints, the same culture, the same language. And we can agree that it's okay to not agree. Like that's where it really comes in. But we have to stick it in our body. We got to get it from deep in our bones first. Otherwise, it's just a wonderful concept.
Yeah.
Then we're back to the mind.
Yes.
And Sarah, I love what you said about, I don't think you used this word, but I'm going to call it dependence. Like you were like, sovereignty is real, needed. Unity is real and needed. Yeah. And when what I think happens is a collapse of both of those into like dependence, where we're codependent on each other. And it makes me think of like cell receptors. Like when we have patterns of codependence, then it's like a molecule living in the receptor where sovereignty and unity would live. And you can't have both at the same moment. So what we're untangling when we untangle these trauma responses in our body, it's like we free the receptors where we can then be sovereign. And then when we're sovereign, we can approach a relationship with and have real unity. We can't have dependence and real unity. It's like taking the place of it. And when we're like sovereign and approaching either a business collaboration or a love relationship, or even like with our children, and we're coming from that place of our genius, we're only just giving. It's like we're coming giving, and we also have permeability to receive. Like Brian talks about spiritual permeability. We can also receive so much more than this sense of sort of needing the other one to be a certain way so that we can have this insecurity met. And then the relationship can really only go so far. And I feel like relationships are meant for us to grow, and we can keep our relationship. And when we're changing these trauma responses in our body and building strength in the system and alignment in the system, we can keep the relationship and grow inside of it. And it's so amazing to watch it transform. And we see that all the things that we want to see change in the world, politically and structurally, the infrastructure of our world, the economy, all of that, we have an internal economy. We have an internal infrastructure. We have internal biome. And that needs to change. This is radical in some spaces, but we see that needs to change inside of us first and in our household first. And then it can start to change out there.
Yeah.
And that's a place where we actually have the ability to do it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I could listen to y'all all day. The last podcast episode that I did was through the lens of feminine and masculine, but it was that like micro macro, if we want to see change in relationships and in sustainability in relationships, we do it from within. So so many connections. I don't even know if this is the best segue because y'all said so many juicy things, but I do want to go toward the topic of trauma and like naming
Mm.
that, because your work takes us like beyond trauma. It takes us beyond just being trauma
Mm.
informed. I think that was actually, you wrote this email and you talked about like moving from being trauma informed or like, you know, needing everything to be so transcendental and like transformative and rah, rah, rah to just like, let's be truth informed. Let's like be in
Mm-hmm.
the truth of who we are. And something that I've like said for years is we are our truth, not our trauma.
Yes.
Mm.
And when we have had the traumas, and all of us have, Brian, what do you call Earth? Like some kind of
Yeah.
school or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I like to refer to Earth, and there was so much ease in my being when I like received this. I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So we love to share that Earth is a trauma-based learning center. Uh,
that.
and that's usually the response people get, like,
Yes.
oh,
Oh, I'm
um,
in the right place then.
I am in the
Oh,
right
that's what
place.
the separation is all about.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You're gonna, excuse my language, but you're gonna get fucked up here, like you just
Yeah.
are. And it's a good thing. Like it's supposed to happen when we can relax into like, okay, it's supposed to happen. Now, that's hard medicine for someone to hear when they're deep in the healing of their trauma. They're like, they kind of want to be like, F you, white guy that probably, has had a lot more opportunities than, 80% of the people on the planet, and heard. And there is a point from which, when we can relax into, okay, this is the school. It's like being in a community college and expecting a Harvard business degree when you graduate. It's like, it's a community college. There's nothing wrong with it. That's a great place to learn. That's a step towards getting enrolled in Harvard Business School, and it is what it is. So let's just be here for the education that we're at. And there is a point at which we all get to, and this is our jam. We all get to walk across the stage of trauma and shake the hand with, one hand and grab the diploma with the other and say bye. And, we get to claim being beings that are here to learn and grow and explore. And while, yes, being guided and informed and having a brilliant source of energy, because that's really what trauma does. It binds and winds energy and information that is a bookmark and an attractor for the right souls and opportunities that seems like we're getting screwed by the universe, but we're just a match. We're a perfect match to attract in these scenarios that allow us to feel what we couldn't feel in the moment of the trauma. So we start to have these experiences that allow us to unpackage it, and it feels like a really hard, crappy relationship. It feels like being challenged by our children, and it puts us on this path of healing, which eventually becomes a path of wholeness, because we recognize that there is more than healing. There is wholeness to be had. And then once we garner enough wholeness within ourselves, we recognize, like, I am whole. I am whole.
Mm-hmm.
And the last piece I want to say on that is, like, the recognition that we are this is a big thing in genius frequency. There are always two things coming together as one, and there's always one thing that's coming apart into two. And so the two things that we're a perfect, brilliant, unbreakable, unfucked upable soul. We're a perfect soul, could never be tainted, harmed, anything. And we land in a lineage that has been broken. We come into an ancestral chain that has lots of trauma in it. And that's the attractor for the educational process to continue. And so, as this perfect soul landing into a physical body, that the moment we're born, we have some stuff to deal with. And then there's the stuff that happens after birth. And that becomes our curriculum. But that's all it is. It's just curriculum.
Curriculum.
Mm. And speaking of curriculum, like the Genius Frequency holds that your core wounds, is kind of another way of saying what you just said, Brian. Your core wounds happen to you. And then when you fully digest them, like the world sees, I'm going to put a pin in that. The world sees trauma as this bad thing, like over here that like I need to fix. And then I can like do my thing in life over here. But what we're saying is they're one thing.
Yeah.
And so your trauma happens to you in your core wounds. When you heal and digest them and unwind them, actually help you feel the frequency that is the solution for the world that you are meant to bring.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that your core wounds are, and I'm not talking about things that have happened to you. That's different than the core wound. The core wound is like, what'd you make of that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? How did you interpret that happening? That core wound, once you digest that, you are the keeper of a frequency that is whole making, for lack of a better way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
That is whole making for yourself and for others. And then you bring that and you give it everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that it actually is why you came. And, you know, why does it have to be that way? We don't really know that it has to be that way always. We do see this point where we like are healed and we're done and we're whole. And like Brian said, Earth is a trauma-based learning center, and a lot of the frequency is encapsulated in wounding. That's just the way it is right now. And our job is to translate that wounding into the frequency our soul is meant to give.
Yeah. And you all have both done this. And I think that's like when I talk about like, I could sense that these people like have something figured out. We're all still in the learning based school,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, again, transformation might not be the right word, but alchemy, that alchemy of the wound into the genius, you all both live that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I see you living it, and you talk about like the thriving, and you within the last year you had a baby boy. Like you're, you know, in this amplification of family and joy, and so you know, maybe in the like the earth template, maybe in the you know, the things that we buy into early, it's like, get this, do this so that you can achieve, so that you can consume, so that you can have this life that like looks really good. When I look at your life, I think those people feel really good. Like, that's what I'm like, oh, they are like enjoying life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. You know,
Thank you.
and that it has been a thing for both of us. And, you know, we are as human as, you know, everyone else here. And it's been a thing for us to really, you know, we've watched ourselves change as this work has grown and developed. And it's guided us. Like, you know, there've been time periods that have been really challenging as we're unpackaging some of these pieces. And we were close in terms of what we were working with the application. And, you know, what I was told all along is like, you have to experience the change on your own so you know what people are going through. And there's only so much you can handle. And you have to integrate your life all along the way. And so right now, what's really sweet for us, and I mean, this last like 9 months has been year really has been such a dojo for us. It's like we had one of our busiest years in terms of travel when Theoden was in the womb. We went to like 5 different countries, you know, like he's been so many places in the womb, all over the place.
Yeah.
We were launching a program. We were launching a program. We were creating the next program. You know, she gave birth literally like 5 feet behind us. You know, all natural childbirth. Like her labor was started with a genius frequency session. Like we actually launched a program that day. Yeah, like while she was laboring, she
and I wrote about that in my birth story on our Instagram. I wrote our birth story. It was a wild happening.
Yeah,
but it was
and it was a little early, right? Like
it was like a week early, you know, 39 weeks and 1 day.
And we thought Theoden was going to be a girl. So it was like, he came in with he's such a wily soul. And so like his smile every day is just like, I got you. Like we thought he was a girl. Like we thought he was going to come like probably 2 weeks later, like late. Yeah. He shows up early. It's like on the day of our launch. She had 3 almost 4 hours of active labor, and then boom, he just, arrived. And I mean, then, 5 weeks later, the hurricane happened. We're here for a week, a couple days without power, obviously months without water. And then we road tripped because I was like, we have all these cloth diapers that we can't wash. And it was just like, I'm going to the creek to get our toilet water. And I mean, it's just nuts. Like, it was like, no, baby, we could have totally navigated, but baby, we're like, okay, we're going to her parents. So we road tripped 2 days, 8 hours in the car, meanwhile, we're like still launching creative program, launched it, then like ran a group, a test naps. Group. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was like crazy. And we're flickering in and out of our core wounds, like in real time. Like we're going into the depths of like the worst part of ourselves that we know. But the difference is like now we're like aware of it, and we're like stopping, and going like, wait a minute, this is like this is that thing. This is that thing that we do as we're.
It's not consuming us.
Yeah, we're calling it out. We're doing life in a different way, and so. We've been able to, in real time, like literally watch our own personal and our ancestral patterns unpackaging to where like our real lived experience is now more times than not, we're like, our life is amazing. Our life is so great. And I will say with all transparency and authenticity, it is not at the metrics of like what the culture would look at if they looked at all the metrics, like how much money you got in the bank, like do you own your own house, like all the things, like we're not there yet. However, there is such wealth arriving, and I know that that is so important for our personal story to be doing what we're doing, because it wouldn't land the same if we were like, and we were loaded and we had, we didn't have to work anymore, and we we're like that's a different story. But
well,
us,
this is
like
part of like rewriting those metrics, right?
Yes.
Like when we begin to reprioritize like time with our children, more than maybe the launch could have been bigger, but I'm here with the ones I love.
Totally. And honestly, time with your children will grow your business faster than anything. Like having a great hobby will grow your business faster than anything. Having amazing sex and putting that first will grow your business faster than anything. That's the cart that has to shift, because we've all been told it's the other. You just got to hustle and grind your way to the top. And it's like, no, that's killing us.
It actually doesn't even work. Like for those of us who are here to live our genius, it doesn't even work anymore. No. Sorry, Chelsea.
No, it's okay. I was just going to tell you, the only reason I would ever get up is for baby Theoden.
Yeah.
I thought I heard him.
Yes.
I'm just going to check. He's with the babysitter, but I'm just going to check on him really quick. I'll be right back.
I will hold
Thank you. Yes, Mama. Thank you for naming it and doing what you need to do. I love that.
Totally. Totally. I mean, this is the kind of thing where like a year ago, I think she would have sat through it and just been like, well, I have an obligation. I really want to serve Sarah in her podcast. And it's like, why?
No, please go check on the baby. It's so interesting because like when the baby started to cry, I kind of heard it, which I don't care at all for the podcast at all. But but like my mama senses were like, the baby's crying. That comes first.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's like still something that I want to kind of pull about this, about the genius. And I don't have the exact question, but there's, because I think I get tripped up in this myself. There's like feeling how you really feel, right? Feeling like yourself, that sacred remembering of the truth of who you are. And when I sense that, and I'm grateful to also say that more and more every day, I am in the joy of who I am, which is just like, I love living that way. It just feels good, right? And then there's the, like the genius that we translate into the mission. And sometimes I'm like, I feel really good and content. And like the mission becomes almost like a should, like I should be doing more, or I should be pushing myself harder, or, you know, reaching more people, or saying more things, or inspiring more people, or, you know, helping the feminine to return on the planet, all of those
Yes.
things that I know are a part of my like mission.
Yes.
But there's something that it's like, yeah, the living it and then bringing the mission work forward. Like I see you
Yes.
and Chelsea Ray bringing the, you know, you brought the teachings forward, you recorded the classes, now you're going to that next level of training the facilitators. It's like, can
Yeah.
you talk to me about the, you know what I'm trying to say? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
You're actually saying it so perfectly, because the way that you're saying it is mirroring and matching exactly how people who are listening to this, they're like, yeah, that. Like, I don't know how to describe it either, but fuck, if we could get some words around that, that would be really helpful. Yeah. And so here's my interpretation of that. And then I think whatever I say will help course correct us, and we're going to get on this. So in order to express your authenticity, in order to embody and live your genius, your reason for being on the planet, we must attend to the work, which is essentially authentically allowing ourselves to feel and express that which we haven't. That's the definition of trauma. Whenever we experience a part of our life that we can't fully experience, we can't experience it physically, sensation wise, we can't experience it emotionally, we don't allow ourselves to fully express what's happening in that moment. And then that distorts cognitively the story that we tell about it, because we left our body in that moment. Our soul left our body because we couldn't. An aligned soul can't, unless we can fully feel it all, is not going to be there for the experience.
Right.
The more our physical body and our emotional body and our mental body can start to experience things in real time, our soul will stay. Mm-hmm. For something that our past self would truly experience as a trauma. Yeah. But when our soul is in there, we can actually be the answer to it. We could be in a very intense car collision, experience all the physicality of it, scream, cry, yell. Like, you know, someone would think we were in dire straits, but the reality is we're processing it in real time. Mm-hmm. So that means in the moments where we are coming into wholeness, we're going to start to experience some of the things that we weren't safe to. We're going to feel some intense sensations. We're going to feel some emotions that we have not been able to express. We're going to grieve really hard. We're going to rage. We're going to feel our frustration. You know, people who see us in this context, we're like, we look good. We look like we're showered. We look like, you know, we throw on some clothes.
We came together for this hour and a half.
Right?
Yeah.
What they don't see is they don't see the video feed of us curled up in the corner, grieving the loss of our father. You know, they don't see us feeling the deep sense of loss of the program that we launched. And we had a metric of this number, but we only got this number, right? And so sure, we could talk ourselves out of that. But the reality is, like, I just want to feel how I want to feel. I want to feel that I missed the mark. And if I allow myself to do that, then the next program we create, I will be more authentic to the number that we're actually going to hit. Right. And if we don't hit it, I will be less caring about it, because I truly know it's not the like spiritual meme that I read on Instagram where everything's perfect and, you know, everything's working for you, you know. Yeah. It's an actualization of that experience. The integration. So yeah, we're integrated into that experience as a real thing. So the part that I think many people are missing, and what you know, I feel really inspired and passionate about in terms of like sharing with people is like, hey, people who are really here and they're really embodying, they're really doing their soul's work, their life outside of that would appear to be messy to the uninitiated. Mm-hmm. There are moments of life where they will be expressing in ways that appear like from someone who's uninitiated, meaning that their soul is not fully embodied. That's the initiation we're here to experience. And indigenous cultures know how to do this. But us modern, people, we have no initiation. So our divorces, our business failures, our, the stuff that we deem as like really hard, that's our initiation. And make no mistake about it, it is an initiation as sacred as what an indigenous culture would put together when we're 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And those cultures are authentic. When someone dies, like they're no less connected to God, and they're wailing. In fact, they have specific women who are good grievers who will go around town and just start wailing through the streets to like get the like I have
get it moving.
But like I'm a pretty good crier. Like I don't mind my expression of my emotion when I tune into it, because I've deculturalized the thing that says like I'm less of a man, or I'm not strong if I like cry on a podcast. It's like, fuck that. That's where my power lies, is because like I'm a man and I can feel as good in many ways, better than many women that I connect with. Like,
the full spectrum.
It's the full spectrum of being alive and being human. That's how you have access to joy. It's like you feel your grief. How
you also have more joy than almost anyone I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like how you feel. Thank you. Like how you feel your courage is like you feel your rage. How you feel your peace is you feel deeply frustrated to the point where you're like, fuck. Like you allow yourself to be a human being. And we've disconnected ourselves from that, especially in this age of technology, where mind has been the temple at which we pray. Technology has been the means or the shaman through which we, make our prayers to.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes when I pick up the phone, I'll hear the voice being like, who are you praying to?
Right.
Like,
that's
what
totally.
Are you praying to?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to scroll right now? Sarah. Who are you praying to?
Totally. That's such a great line.
Good.
Yeah.
And that mental prioritization is the quickest way to get replaced by AI.
Right.
It's the quickest way, because you'll never think as good as a computer.
Yeah.
But that's not even what humans are good at.
No, we're
like we can
feelers and we're knowers.
Yeah. We have the human intelligence.
Yeah. Human intelligence. So, yes, AI is wonderful and it's amazing, and people ought to be terrified if their value is only in the realm of thought, because they will be replaced by it. Like we're not as good a thinker as a computer. We just aren't. We can't move as much data. However, we can know things instantaneously that AI could never know, but we have to have a broad-based feeling and sensory capacity if we're going to do that.
I love it. So, because I really want people to know about Genius Embodied, I really do. So when I'm doing that and I'm following your directions, I'm listening to the meditations that you put out. There's instruction, there's meditations, and then I'm putting my hands on my body, and there are elements, like it's elemental embodiment. So you could talk more about that if you'd like, but there's these certain hand positions, and then each element has a breath pattern that you've found through your genius, through your co-genius. And then the word that I'm just going to use to summarize this is like, when you do this, there's this unwinding. Would you say an unwinding of the previous limitation held by the trauma pattern?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliantly said.
Okay. Yeah. So this morning I was like, oh, I'm going to, so excited for this conversation. Also, I was like a little nervous. Brian was just talking about like the things that people don't see. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a little nervous. I did some tapping before this. I'm just naming what y'all didn't see, just like, but then that tapping was like, oh, I'm nervous and I'm excited. Like I love these people. I want to, share this. I want to have this conversation. So anyway, I got out the map today and I was looking at the elements and feeling like which one I might want to engage with. And I chose the one where I had resistance. I resist air like every time. I don't want to do air.
Yeah.
And every time I do air, there's a lot of spaciousness that comes from it. But in the very beginning, you know, I could feel how safe it was to keep my hands close to my body. And I was like, okay, there's that pattern. Like, this is where I've been operating. You know, what do I choose? I could have felt the resistance and went to mineral, because mineral is my jam. Like, I want to do that all the time. But yeah, so then, you know, by the time I was done with air, I had more felt capacity in my energy body. I mean, in 10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that experience.
Yes. And there's, and there is a reason, you know, I'm same, like air is, if I'm going to avoid some, it's going to be air every day. And
it's funny because I would say air is the most classic of avoidance.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. Well, you know, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because we could look at your code, and you probably, like me, have air further down your code. Like, that's deeper in your closet. Like, so we're kind of just like
earth and water all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so we each have, so this is part of, you know, to me, the only way, and I know, like, from a soul perspective, I'm like looking at the contract and I'm like, you know, they're like, am I going to have to tell people and figure out like a personality test? Like, I have to watch you and figure things out about you in order to do the work I do. And they're like, no. No, they're born with it. You just have to, you know, can you ask for their birthday? I'm like, I can ask for the birthday. Like, okay, can you then get information from their birthday? And it's like, literally, God delivers them and their soul decides on when they land. That's all you need. And then their code's laid out. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'm in. I'll sign. So I sign the contract. Boom. So I'm imagining that's how it all played out.
That's how the genius contract worked.
Right. Exactly. Like pre-birth soul signing contract while I'm at the used soul dealers, you know, shop. So for what I think is so brilliant about this, and, you know, again, I make no, you know, this stuff was delivered. Like, there was, you know, and it's not just me. It's like, we've actually had a team of people working on this information. I knew that I could personally develop it to a certain point. And then I realized, like, oh, I wasn't really developing. I was kind of like working with Chelsea Rae, but my mind, that was a nice story for me to hold on to. You know, that was the buoy from which I didn't feel like I could, you know, my ego could hang on to long enough before I could be like, okay, I can let go of that story. So the work being essentially like, someone has a code, everyone has a code based on when you're born. And that code has a certain order, and trauma basically scrambles that order. So it's like, you know, if you have a safe and you have 3 numbers to get in the safe, if you put the safe dial in the right order, you're going to get into the safe. If you spin the dial and someone's attempting to get in, they don't have those 3 numbers, they're not getting in. If you forget those numbers, then you can't get in. So the good news is, whatever stuff you have in your safe is safe. The bad news is, you can't get the good stuff in your safe. So our bodies are kind of like that. We have this code, we have this series of elements, and each element in its position, the first element supports your body to heal and for you to feel safe in your body. Your second element supports you to feel safe, to feel emotions, and then take action from those emotions, because that's the purpose. The third element supports our focus, our mind. And so it's like this growing, each element kind of, there's an architecture of our neurology from lower brain center, not lower, lesser, think of foundation, building up to like 6th element supports us to connect with our reason for being on the planet and remembrance of our galactic origin. So it's like, we start low, but boy, we go really high once we get to that 6th element. Imagine being alive on this planet and remembering the star system from which you incarnated outside of the Earth incarnation cycle. That's what we're saying is within you and is yours to remember. And when you come back into your body, with that level of depth and that level of remembrance, it's like filling out tax forms doesn't seem challenging anymore.
Yeah.
Like who won the election doesn't seem to sway you, because you're like, I'm on a mission. Like I'm on a mission above and beyond this time period. Like I'm on a mission above and beyond this planet. I love humans. I love humanity. And I'm also associated with some other beings from other places. Like when your mission gets to that level of depth, the stuff,
the galactic depth,
the stuff of being a human that used to rattle you does not rattle you anymore. You're like, it's just kind of insignificant. Just like, you know, am I going to get a cookie before nap time when you were in kindergarten? Like now you could go without a cookie. You know, you can always get a cookie later. Well, like we rise to the challenges.
Yeah.
And what used to be hard isn't hard anymore. So initially, and there's two codes. There's one code, which is what Genius Embodied 1 supports us to connect with, which is the collective code. And so that helps me as I'm climbing consciously to still feel connected to people who are different and
still
at different layers in the game.
At your family.
Yeah, and be like, wait, you voted for who? For why? I'd be like, God bless you. Like, and not like a a Southern God bless you, but like a real like Southern I am blessing you for where you're at and who you are. And I can't know your challenges and why you do what you do. And I love you anyways.
Yeah.
And so that supports us to all kind of like, remember, it's like, hey, we're all players in a play. There's the evil guy in the play, and he's going to do terrible things throughout this play. He's going to murder half the cast, right? But it's John. It's just John. He's an actor. He's not really murdering people. It's just John playing a role. So you love John. Don't get caught up with the fact that he's playing a murderer in a play. He's a guy doing his job really well. So that's what the collective code does. Then there's the individual code that allows us to tune into our own frequency code. It's like that when the tumblers all line up and your 6 elements align, it's like your soul is fully inhabiting your body, and you remember the game. You remember the plan. You remember your part in it. You don't attempt to overplay parts that aren't yours to play. And you don't underplay your part either. And you know when to nap and you know when to jam.
Yeah.
And so it's these two codes together that initially we're unwinding the trauma. We're getting the curriculum. We start to get why we got traumatized in the way that we are as a perfect curriculum. And we get our part in the collective and we get our individual role. And that's what those two programs do.
Yeah. And the unwinding trauma, I feel like that's all the rage right now. Everybody like, oh, trauma informed, unwinding trauma. That's really just the tip of the iceberg of what we do. And it's not that hard to unwind it. It's pretty easy. And that is just what that does is it brings you home to yourself. And from that place of peace, how Brian was talking about, oh, we're all just, playing a role. You start to feel like from a place of at homeness and peace in yourself, you start to feel like, oh, like the sense of even though that's happening, I'm okay. And then once you start doing the real fun stuff, which is what we call alignment, and it's when you build alignment in your system and you build, it's like strength and power and courage and determination and vision and then like capacity and oneness with everything, you feel like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do about it. So we're not just saying like, oh, it's not real. Like it's very real and it's important. And like what's important is that you know your role and what you're meant to do, your response, and it's not a traumatized reaction. Because the traumatized reaction is not very powerful. And that's part of the game, is that they want the traumatized reaction where you're not that powerful. And when you're coming from your power, it just feels less like you're seated in your power too. So what they're doing is not overtaking you.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful.
The game is all about your sovereignty.
Yes. Yeah. And
by the way, they are the game tenders.
Right.
They have a role too. And the more you play and the higher you go, you get to be a game tender too.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
so just to take the polarity out of they, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, who are they? It's like, well,
Who are
they're the game
they?
tenders.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are keeping the game going.
We are going galactic here. It is
Yeah.
Friday.
I love it.
We are like, we don't care, Sarah. We're just telling you what.
Yeah, we're laying it all
what
out.
It really
I'm
is.
so glad, but we have to go galactic, because
Yeah.
if not, then we're still in the human
We are.
game. We're
Yes.
just in the
Because
game,
that's the level
in
of
the
game we
simulation.
need to be playing.
Yes.
Right.
Precisely.
And we need that soul aspect. I need to do the genius embodied too, because I've only done
You
one.
love it.
And now I'm
Yes.
like, oh, this is
Yeah.
perfect timing. Yes, I need to do two.
Can I ask, Sarah, what is your birth year end with? Like if it's 1974, it'd be a 4. What's the
last
digit of your
born.
birth year?
1.
1 year.
You're a
water,
person,
of course.
Yeah.
Because
Water all
I was feeling your water. Because
Yeah.
your first element's water.
We know so many Sarahs that are water years. It's like, really,
And
it's a thing.
I was feeling like you're Sarah. I feel like I could just sit with you and like tell you all my secrets.
Yeah,
People
we'll
feel
divulge
so safe
to water people.
People feel so safe with you.
Yeah.
And water people, or I say water people.
Yeah, it just means your first element.
Your first
is water.
element is water. We're all of the elements. We all have everything.
Just different order.
But if your first element's water, then your what you bring to the community is help people feel safe to feel. And from that sense of feeling, they can tap into their soul.
Yes.
But without safety of feeling, you only have access to mind. So there's a harmonic that Brian has come up with, a harmonic between emotion and soul. And that's like what I feel with you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for saying that. And,
yeah,
you know, in trauma association, or in trauma, which I've like had plenty of, and then entrepreneurial, you know, life is like, that's a school in and of itself.
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So, so when I, you know, there have been times when I went mental, or I was in trauma, but I was trying to compensate as an entrepreneur and keep things going. And then I totally recognized that like tampered the level of safety that people felt with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, just naming some of that too. So thank you for saying that, that you get that from me. There's been a lot of trauma that has like integrated. Thank God.
Yes. Yeah. You're reaping the fruits from the trauma tree, and and it's translating as truth. And I mean, that's, you know, I love that you kind of brought it to that piece where we talk about the trauma informed, transform informed, and truth informed, and that's been like a hallmark of you, is that level of truth.
Yeah.
And you know, truth is truth. There's like a truth pie, and it doesn't matter like where you slice into the pie. And I feel and have known this resonance with you, and like the perfection of our meeting, and the perfection of you receiving what it is that we created with Genius Embodied, and the support that it gave you at that particular time in your life. And literally, like, I watched you on, I'm not a Facebook watcher, and in the time period that you were on Facebook that you were doing, I was watching, I was like, oh my God. Like, and I would show Chelsea, right? I would say, like, have you seen what Sarah's up to?
I
like,
started to talk about the Galactic stuff way more.
I just saw you go, and it was like watching a flower like pop up from the ground, and the little seedling, and then, you know, the leaves come out, and then the flower came out. It was just really been so amazing to watch.
We love your writing.
Yeah,
so eloquent.
Yeah, it's so elegant, and so powerful, and you're such a beautiful representation of feminine energy in a body that's like true to your core. And, you know, it's been really amazing to watch you. And, you know, I know you're just at the tip of your own personal iceberg in terms of, you know, who you're being and what you're up to. You know, and I want to circle back around to that piece about, like you were saying, because everything that you laid out, like whatever that was 10 minutes ago, when we kind of went on the tangent of like, what is that? What's the question I'm asking? And you laid out a series of things of like, I'm not doing this fast enough. I'm not doing enough. I should be, you know, all these things. Like,
sometimes it feels like the mission itself is not getting done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you are I can't wait to see your code. And my sense is that part of your jam is you tune into the culture, especially the culture that you're really invested in being with. So
People
like
you care about.
powerful
Yeah.
women, entrepreneurs who like have been really messed up and are also like super badass souls who are in disguise of a human body that got disempowered. And like you're here to rise that frequency and then attract other women and support their own wholeness. I'm feeling emotional waves and I don't mind crying, but it's just harder to talk. This is how I have to process.
Yeah.
And it's like, so here's my, if this resonates and this helps and supports, great. If it doesn't, swipe it like a bad ad. You are here to also be a bit of a canary in the coal mine of what this subset, this powerful female subset who are here to like fuck up the system in the best way. You're tuning into their mental noise. Right. And you're calling it your own.
Right.
And you're at a point right now where I really would invite you to ask the question, is this mine, or am I tuning into my 10,000, 100,000, a million women that I support, whether they're following me right now or not, they're still in line with me. And am I metabolizing this energy so I can beautifully eloquently write to it, so I can beautifully eloquently speak to it? And just that little shift alone of saying like, is this, what percentage of this is mine? Okay, 5%.
It's always like some
so you're going to have some little bit to metabolize, but it's not all yours. It is definitely not all yours.
The bigness of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're just tuning into frequencies of the people that you serve and are here to support. And then you can metabolize, whatever percentage of that is. And then you speak the words and they're like, oh my God, Sarah said the thing. And so part of that is also like in that moment for you not to speak clearly, because that's also, that's how women are being initiated, because you're supposed to be like this really smart, like you live in a man's world and you do. And so you have to be smart enough to, it's like, no, screw that. You're a feeling being who at times needs to not be able to clearly articulate what you're feeling, and then be supported, and then just be a carrier of that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Again, perfect timing on this whole thing. I could feel the alchemy. The Sacred Remembering podcast always has so much alchemy, but, a few months ago, I started channeling this Magenta Rose collective. And someone had told me like years ago that I was here on the part of the Magenta Rose collective. Well, like you can't even look that up and find anything like there, So I've started to channel this collective, and that's, it's where I'm from. It's been there all along. Right. So it's like more and more remembrance, the more I'm in the channel. And, I am actually like letting go of a lot. I think what you're saying about like the noise and the voices and like letting go, I'm hardly paying attention to what else is going on. And I've actually let go of the Sacred Remembering community, which I've held for 4 years. And the message was like, take down the walls. So yeah.
Beautiful.
And coming back to the book project that I've been working on, because I went too mental with the book project. It was like, I don't know the ending. I don't feel like I'm there yet. It was kind of a mental, sort of a traumatized thing. And now it's like right into the future. And thank you, Chelsea Rae, for talking about the writing. Because I've got like books. Like this is who I am, to be. Like the books are coming.
Right into the future. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And this new code, like we're all talking about living into the genius and bringing the code forward. And like, I'm always talking about this on this podcast, that the answers are within and it's buried under the trauma. And, it's like, we have to unearth that code so that we can bring it to the planet.
Yes.
I'm glad you said this. And I know we're probably like coming to a wrap up, and there's something I wanted to say about the the message we sent that sparked this conversation about trauma. What bothers me about the trauma informed movement is that, here's what I want to say to people, is that it's really great to be aware that it's there. And if we start to identify with that, we are traumatized, we are our trauma, we are blah, blah, blah. And we start to only soothe the system and think, if I feel uncomfortable, I just need to soothe my system. And that's the only tool we have, is just soothing, coming back to being okay. We're never going to do anything. And
Right.
yeah, we're never going to do anything. And we're going to think that we need to protect ourselves all the time. And we're going to end up babying ourselves and each other. We're not babies.
Yeah.
We're powerful galactic beings who have been fucked up, for sure. And we can unwind the trauma. Of course, we must. We will. And we'll just do it in a few minutes. Like you said, few minutes at a time. And I don't mean to dismiss it, because when it's up, we will be with it and give it everything it needs, right? And something really great can happen after that.
Yeah.
That we get to the truth that you mentioned is buried underneath of it. And then we get to make good on that, because the energy that's bound up in the trauma is now unbound, and we can use it to make good on that truth and do something.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal.
Right. And I mean, I love that we're accelerating, right? It feels like we're accelerating, even naming this in this conversation, and people that are listening, like, we are accelerating in our capacity. And I know, I worked in education, and I was all about like mindfulness in education. I was around when we started to say trauma informed in education, when we started to use the word resiliency. That was like 10 years ago. Wasn't that long ago, right? Where we just even got comfortable with saying, you know what? We need to look at people's trauma. We need to like acknowledge that things have happened, and we need to help people heal. That was like within the last decade, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like that life force, we can get it back and put it to good use to bring your genius forward. So let's tell folks where they can go to access this tool that you have created, this modality that has come through. I cannot do this podcast without naming this last part, actually, because I love union. I'm not partnered yet. Where is my husband? We need to find him. But like, I am increasing capacity for a husband.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Great.
So
that's actually a gift that we hold, is that people coming our way, people like who spend time with us, are like finding their soulmate.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Right. So because y'all came together in union, and then this thing came from your union. And like, as soon as I saw you all and then like noticed that this special thing came from you, I was like, that is the magic of sacred union on this planet. So I love it. And I love how the code amplifies, like Brian named that the code amplified when you came in. So I have to shout that out. It was just so beautiful and so amazing.
Feeling seen. That's what it was. It was our first creation.
Yeah.
It was our first baby.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for trusting and for doing it and for building it and for continuing to listen and show up and say yes and bring this genius forward. So now that I've said that, it's extra special because of this union code that's also behind it. Please share with everyone how they can access it.
Yes. Does it work with your podcast if we share a link? Is that easy? Okay, we do have a link
in the show notes.
Okay, great. And to describe it, if you're listening, you would just go to our website, geniusfrequency.com. Genius, GENIUS, frequency.com. Exactly like you would think it's spelled the traditional way. And you scroll down our website just a little bit, and there's a little box where you can type in your email and you will get a free video called Meet Your Genius to learn more about our work. And also, coming down the line, our email list, we've actually felt inspired to gift everyone the first module of this program so that they can experience what it's really like. They will get the Earth module, and Earth is all about safety in your body and feeling at home in yourself, and wealth, the true kind of wealth. So we are going to gift that to our email list. The first thing you'll get is the free video, and then you will get down the line this first module. So do sign up so you can experience it for yourself. If you want to go ahead and get the course, you're going to go to a page on our website called Embody at Home, and then you will see our courses, and it's called Genius Frequency. It's very easy to find.
Yeah, there's like parts 1 and 2 or both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about the Earth module, you're talking about like both the teaching and then the practice. So they get to hear you teach that. Okay, I love that module because Brian tells this story about gold. And I think like the element of gold is just so important on our planet right now. So, okay, I love that. Because I almost asked you to tell that story today. I love it so much, but people can go listen to that Earth module.
Yeah, they're going to get it. They'll get it.
Yeah.
They'll get
the gold story.
I told it the really proper way during that.
Amazing. Yeah. It all came together.
So that is our gift.
Thank you. Thank you for gifting that. I think that's, it's a brilliant idea. And I hope that everyone listening, ideally everyone, but those who need it are really going to make their way over to your website and discover your work. And I know that so many women listening to this, like there is still healing to do, right? There's still this healing to do. And like gently meeting themselves in that, and bridging to recouping this life force that has been caught up in the trauma, and so they can be more in the truth of who they are. So thank you so much. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was really fun to connect with you.
We love what you're holding for people.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm entering into a new 7-year cycle in business. So we'll just see what even is coming. So thank you for meeting me here. Thank you. And I look forward to the next time we all touch base.
Us too.
Okay.
For sure.
Too.
Thank you.
Bye.